Today I'm here with Dr. Scott, Director of Public Health Initiatives in the Department of Population and Quantitative Health Sciences at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. This is an uncomfortable conversation, two white people talking about race, but you, Dr. Frank, have a unique perspective based on your career. Can we open with that?
Sure. I think I'd start out by saying that racism is a public health crisis. Public health is what I do. So here's where I come from. Lila Watson, an Australian Aboriginal advocate, said that if you have come to help me, you're wasting your time. If you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. I recognize that my own personal well-being, my sense of self, of who I am, is all bound up in social justice, and that in the US, the greatest and most terrible form of injustice is racism. I have been involved with the African American community throughout my life here in Cleveland as a physician for 35 years, caring for a largely African American patient population, to public health, where I recognize that social determinants of health and the place that you live has a greater impact on your life expectancy than your genetic code. So these are issues that I've been bound up in throughout my career, and that's been highlighted by my opportunity to worship in an African American parish, not a mile and a half from my home, for 20 years until they closed it in Bishop Lennon's great purge of Catholic churches, which purged more African American parishes proportionally. But the point of this really is that my experience with my patients and my experience at St. Cecilia's really hammered home the truism from the Jesuit Youth Corps. The motto of the Jesuit Youth Corps is "Ruined for Life," and that is because when they put idealistic kids into socially charged situations where they see and learn so much about suffering and trauma, it leaves them ruined for life, unable to unsee what they have seen, unable to unembrace the principles that they have embraced. And that's me. I'm ruined for life. I wish that upon all of you, that you become ruined for life because you have experiences with people who are different than you that help you understand and embrace those differences rather than fear them or be put off by them, making you unwilling to see what life is like for other people.
Well, this is an unusual moment where I think more people than ever before are ruined for life after having technology show us things that we used to be able to turn away from and we can't anymore. And that's true for our kids. So right at this moment, how do we talk to our kids about what's happening? Police brutality and racism in America. How do we start those conversations?
I wouldn't presume to tell someone how to be anti-racist or how to be an ally, but I can tell you how not to do that. The way not to do it is not to have it just be an epiphany, a flash before your eyes of George Floyd and 8 minutes and 46 seconds being tortured and dying. If you really want to be an ally, if you want to be anti-racist, it may start with an epiphany, but it takes consistent action over time and commitment to being uncomfortable, commitment to speaking up when you know that's not what your friend wants to hear. I'm not suggesting that you create discomfort, but to feel uncomfortable yourself. And for us as parents to role model this for our kids, I think is especially important.
So in the event that our family or our kids are experiencing something where someone says something or does something that makes us uncomfortable, that part of being anti-racist is to overtly do or say something?
So you don't have to do it at that moment, but you do have to do it. You know, whether it's to the person who made you uncomfortable or to someone else who you're debriefing that experience with and talking about what you wish you had said. You know, the issue is not to weaponize your words, but to make sure that you talk about it, not to point fingers, but to make points, and not to preach, but to teach. You know, you can't escalate situations into increasing tension and conflict. The point is to de-escalate, but to do so from a point of authentic feelings, to recognize what these words, the feelings these words are creating in you, the emotions that you perceive others in the room having as a result of those words, and not to speak up for someone else, but to speak for yourself about how that made you feel. And if you're talking about how someone else's action made you feel, that's the way to address the issue in a least threatening manner. And the key to that, for me, is empathy, to respond to injustice with authentic feelings, and we need to let our children see us doing that. We need to be able to admit how angry or sad or helpless we feel, and particularly, and this is the lesson that I hope we all give our children, don't speak for someone else, speak for yourself. And if you speak for yourself from a place of authentic emotion and feeling how this statement made you feel, you should be fine.
We have kids today who want to do something. I mean, they are seeing the injustices in front of them every second of the day, and they want to make a difference. And sometimes that means they reach out to a friend who's Black and ask, what can they do? And that response might be, I don't want to be in this conversation with you. I don't want to explain to you what my life is like. So, as parents, what can we encourage our kids to do? Because we don't want them to necessarily be shut down by what is appropriate. That person does not have to be their teacher, but we also want them to keep moving forward and learning and understanding what it's like to be Black in America as best as we can.
So there are all sorts of resources, from movies to videos to books, but I think talking with all of your friends, not just your African American friends, about how they feel about these issues, particularly because there are all sorts of forms of otherism where people are treated differently or badly because of things that are different about them, that help resonate again with the experience of African Americans. The African American experience is entirely different because of the historical nature of the oppression that that group has experienced, and to expect that they will be in a position of wanting to educate you on their whole race is really not a reasonable expectation. The bottom line is that the more time you spend with people who are different than you in authentic situations, the more you learn that for yourself, and you don't need to ask others about it, but have an opportunity to develop your own sense of what life is like for others. Keeping your eyes open, being mindful, intentional about the way that you relate to other people is part of what I meant when I said that it's not an epiphany, but something that you do over a lifetime. That act of asking someone to explain it to you is the easy way out. take the hard way. Take a path that allows you to learn for yourself those different aspects of what life is like for people other than you.
Okay, so you have embodied everything you've said here in your life, and this idea of not having the epiphany today and letting go of it tomorrow, which is kind of like what we're all waiting for, like when can we get back to normal, but fighting that and saying normal wasn't okay. I don't really know what that looks like. So in your experience, in the way you've lived your life, and even now, as you're saying, it can't be that we kind of rest on any kind of past behavior or that today is enough. What are you going to do?
There's a definition of public health that was put forth by one of our wonderful students here at Case that says public health means loving the world like your family. This is what I try to do. For me, public health is the scientific application of love. What I intend to do is love just as many people in just as many ways as I can. There are 5 different Greek words to describe love. We have one inadequate word, but the form of love most often talked about in this way is called agape, a very important part of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s work. The more we can find ways to do best what people need most in ways that fulfill us professionally, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, the better off we are. So this is what I wish for everybody, is to find ways to do best what people need most. We can only do that within our own skill set, and we can only do that in ways that we perceive of what people need most. But when we're able to do that, it answers the question that you asked.
So I'm going to end with this is where the hard work is, because what I was really hoping to follow up was, okay, so what should we do? And really, the only ones that can answer that are us. And that's the hard work.
I think response to racism is absolutely an individual thing that depends on your own skill set, your own perceptions, your own sensibilities. But to do so, as I said before, mindfully and intentionally is the pathway that is most likely to take you to a place where you feel comfortable in yourself going on your journey regarding race. I want to just share with you a poem that I wrote after walking out of a room with a patient early in my career. Some lives are lived just off the page, unseen, unheard, without a stage, no words, no doubts, just do without, just full of fear, just full of rage, just full of same, just off the page. To me, the words in that have applied to almost all of us at one time or another. We felt awkward, uncomfortable, unwelcome off the stage. But if one imagines living that poem every day, for some every moment, it tells us how we can understand and resonate with other people through our own experience, but recognize the difference in scale and proportion of the experience of those who are in difficult situations.
Dr. Scott Frank, you're an inspiration to me. I hope that I will take your experiences and your wisdom and apply it to my life going forward. Thank you.